Coach, we've got microphones on both sides. Folks, you may know Coach. Please identify yourself and the media outlets so that the folks watching at home and in their offices will know who's asking the question. So we'll start it off. Who wants the first shot at Coach? We'll go left side. I don't mean the first shot. I mean first question, first opportunity. To your left, first row.
Dean Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Coach, the makeup of the team this season, just what you can say, maybe some of those words that best describe what you have, and then secondly, the two gentlemen that you brought with you today, just what their leadership means to the team.
Well, I like our team a lot. We were fortunate that we took a trip to Spain this summer, so we got 10 practices and then 10 days over there, and so I got a little chance to work with them. I think we have a completely different team from the standpoint of we have 5 experienced players that are back, that are truly guys that have played and played well at this level. But then we also have 7 new guys or 7 guys per se that really don't have much Clemson experience at all. And so blending that group, I think, is the real challenge. As you mentioned, I think a lot of that responsibility is going to fall to myself, and then also our seniors, Gabe DeVoe and Dante Grantham, 2 guys that I think are both very good players. They're guys that I think have kind of bided their time very well and played a little bit in the shadow of a Jerron Blossom game, who was certainly an outstanding player in our program these last couple of years, but I think are now both going to have opportunities to get more opportunities to score, to put them in positions off of set plays and actions where they have chances to make more plays. And so I look for both of those guys to have bigger seasons.
Coach, far right, standing against the wall.
Hey, Brad. Pete Hannity from WSPA TV in Spartanburg. I know defensively you would like things to be better number-wise than last year, and I know maybe at times the way you played offensively led to maybe some of the defensive issues, but what have been some of the things you've worked on with the team so far to get back to what you want to have defensively?
Yeah, I'm excited to try. We're going to try to go back to playing a little bit more in the full court defensively. I think we haven't quite had as much depth in certain years to do that. We have to be a little cautious with it because Shelton Mitchell is a guy who has battled knee injuries and again had a surgery this offseason, and so we've got to be careful with how we deal with him, and we were concerned about that last year. But I think with the freshmen that we've added in A.J. Oliver and Clyde Trapp, combine that with Marquise Reed now, who's experienced in our system and knows how we want to do things defensively, even Gabe DeVoe, I think we can pressure the ball more in the full court and be a little more difficult to play against. I'm hoping our depth will create problems for teams, and we can wear some teams down a little bit defensively, much like we did in certain years here with KJ and my first year as the coach at Clemson when we had good depth. So I think those are some things that we've really worked on, and we've started to begin to look at a little bit of a zone. Not sure where that'll go yet, but we're trying to look at a couple things to be better defensively. We know that's where we took the step back. Offensively, we were a very efficient team. We didn't turn the ball over much. Our assist turnover numbers were really, really good. We averaged 75 points a game. We had 3 guys shoot over 40%. So offensively, we were a pretty good team last year. Defensively, we took a step back, and so we feel like we've got to address that to make another step this year.
Coach, we'll go to your left, Bob Holliday in the very back.
Bob Holliday, WR.com. You mentioned Blossom game. You also don't have Jete anymore. Give you some really good rim protection, defensive rebounding. Do you have someone else who can do that, or are you simply a smaller, quicker team?
Well, we have 2 guys inside that we hope will emerge defensively. I don't know that either one of them are tremendous shot blockers. I think Elijah Thomas can block some shots. He has long arms. He's 6'9". You know, he's been in our system now for 6 months. He was a transfer that came late, so he really kind of joined our team in the middle of December last year, and that probably wasn't the easiest thing for him. I think he's really grown up in our system. He's learned how to coexist with his head coach and understand my expectations a little bit better, and is working harder to meet those expectations and responsibilities. And because of that, I see that, you know, he really is improving, and I'm excited by his development. I think he has a chance to take a big step forward. And we also added Mark Donnell, who's a 5th-year transfer from Michigan. Mark will never be thought of as a shot blocker, but he is a physical defender. He's an experienced player that's been in a lot of big games, and he's a great complement to Elijah because you have 2 guys that are big and strong and physical Mark can actually play away from the basket, shoot some threes on offense. Elijah's a primary low post scorer.
Coach, to your right about the fourth row towards the back.
Hey, Coach, Scott Kiefer with the Greenville News. You guys lost an incredible series of close games last year. What was the culprit there, and what can you put in place this year to kind of avoid that same trap?
Yeah, Scott, it was a myriad of things. And we did win some at the beginning of the year, and that's what was frustrating. We won one against Nebraska. We won one at South Carolina. We won one in a comeback win against Wake. And when you're winning the close games, all of a sudden, I think we were 12-2 at one point in the season, and we looked like we were well on our way to the tournament. Then we hit the ACC play and lost a couple of games. We missed a free throw against North Carolina. Syracuse, we had a defensive error and gave up a three at the buzzer. Offensively, in the Florida State game at home, we had two bad possessions, and that probably cost us. It wasn't just one thing. That's what the issue was. It wasn't one thing that we could just fix. I will say that I think our defense not being as good as it needed to be at times helped create more close games because we didn't defend as well for the full 40 minutes. We allowed teams to get into rhythm and score. We found ourselves in difficult situations that could end up in losses. And so we're trying to address that. We have an offensive-minded group. I think we're still fairly offensive-minded with the way our lineup is made up of and what guys' identity and how they see themselves. And so I've got to do a better job of making sure they understand that we're going to have to win with some defense. And that's one of the reasons why we're increasing our pickup point, pressuring more, going to play more players. We're going to challenge older players that if you don't defend, you're going to sit. And we're going to give young guys opportunities to get out there and try to wear teams down with some legs and do some different things because we do feel like we have depth. And we think if we do those things, hopefully that eliminates some of the close games that we're in. But then if we get in those situations, a lot of times it's about players making plays. You got to have guys step up. And we had a couple of games where we did have guys make big plays. And in those situations, we oftentimes didn't get a stop. And then we had a couple times when we didn't execute offensively, and that was the culprit. So it wasn't just one thing.
Coach, straight up the aisle to your right, fourth row.
Matt Connolly with the State Newspaper. How will you kind of handle and manage Shelton's knee early on in the season? We maybe limit his minutes.
Yeah, it's a good question. We've been managing some of his practice time right now. I think the challenge for it is some days he feels really good, and then other days, for whatever reason, it's just sore. And I think I don't know that that's ever going to go away. I don't know that we can predict it. So we are going to try to manage minutes sometime. It stiffens up sometimes when he comes out or when we stop practice and shoot free throws for 5 minutes or he takes an extended period out. It's hard for him to get going and get back into a practice when his knee stiffens up. And so we've got to figure out some things there. I'm sure we'll have a bike on the side and try to keep him riding the bike while we take him out. And then we've got to figure out ways to play without him, whether that's Dante Grantham playing some minutes at the point, Marquise Reed, Gabe DeVoe, Clyde Trapp. We'll have backup guys doing different things, and we may tweak our offense a little bit to take less pressure off that position when he's not in the game.
Coach, right side, fourth row, right in the middle.
Marcel Louis-Jacques, orange and white. You've called David Scott by far your best defensive player. What is it that makes him so tough defensively?
First of all, he has great length at 6'7", 210 pounds. He has great feet as well. Laterally, he moves better than anybody on our team. He just slides well laterally. It's athleticism. But then he also has a willingness, a want to where most guys on our team, most guys in general, see themselves as offensive players. And they had a good game if they made 3 threes and scored 15 points. David doesn't think that way. He knows he can have a good game by making 1 basket, getting 4 rebounds, and stopping the best player. And he's willing to do that. He's a guy who will sacrifice. He's a guy who has the athleticism, and he takes great pride in defending. And obviously in his sit-out year last year, he had an opportunity to try to guard Jerron Blossom game every day, and I think that helped him. He took that challenge very seriously. So he's a guy that I think defensively is our best player, and his versatility in terms of being able to guard perimeter players, an undersized 4 occasionally, a point guard, I think that will really help this team.
Anything else from the floor for Coach? We'll take the last question standing against the wall.
Pete Iacobelli, Associated Press. Brad, you talk about how guys think that they're offensive guys. How difficult is it to recruit defense? And is it becoming harder and harder as guys see, the NBA stars and things like
A
that?
little bit, but there are guys out there, and we're recruiting some right now, but there's no question that guys, more times than not, everybody wants to know how they do offensively and score baskets and this, that, and the other. I think as a coach, you've got to make a conscientious decision to recruit guys who are competitors, who are team guys, and who want to do what's best for the team. And in my first few years here, we were kind of a defensive-minded team, and we were very close, and we had some very good defensive players, Landry Noko, KJ McDaniel, Rod Hall, but we were a little offensively challenged. We weren't great shooters, and we lost games, but we would lose close. But it would be low scoring, and it would be physical, and it would be tough. And we got to a point where we had some good teams when KJ got a little bit better. But then we made a conscientious decision. We got to add more guys that can score, more firepower. And so we brought in the 3 transfers, Shelton Mitchell, Marquise Reed, and Elijah Thomas. And they're all offensive players. They can score. And they proved it last year, and they'll prove it again this year. But you have to be able to do both. The best teams win in the high 80s, but they can also win to grind it out style against Tony Bennett, 58 to 55. And we have to figure out how to be that kind of team. And in order to do that, you got to have a little bit of both. And so our recruiting is getting better. Our new facility is helping us tremendously. I can't say that enough. In the last 18 months, we've had more better players on campus.